What's going on, guys? Happy Monday and welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where every single Monday I, Graham G.S. Matthews, give my breakdown of all the original programming I watch on the WWE Network. Today we're talking Nation Reunion episode of Table for Three, featuring the Godfather Ron Simmons and Mark Henry. Now, I may have incorrectly advertised this as the Bring It to the Table episode review that was supposed to air this past Monday, or last Monday rather, so I'm not wrong in saying that. They did say for a while that the new Bring It to the Table was advertised would air on July 17th. Now, for whatever reason, they moved it back. It may have been because they had the Kurt Angle interview with Jason Jordan right after Raw, and then they aired the Table for Three episode. So I'm not really sure. A different table show. I like a Table for Three a lot more than Bring It to the Table, don't get me wrong. But it did say that it will air now instead on July 31st. Which on that day they were supposed to do a new Table for Three. This one, maybe they changed up the schedule, I'm not really sure. Because I think the 24th tonight is a new Table for Three with Renee Young, Corey Graves, and some other commentator. I forgot who it was. Some other member of the broadcasting, maybe Tom Phillips. But anyway, this was Table for Three Nation Reunion with the Godfather, Ron Simmons, and Mark Henry. We start off the episode with Godfather talking about how he owns a club in Las Vegas, which I feel like I knew, but I may have forgotten because that doesn't sound too familiar, but it kind of does. But Ron Simmons says he's enjoying family life now that he's done with wrestling, and he has been for the last couple of years. Mark Henry, we get to him. He talks about celebrating 21 years in the business, which is incredible. The guy's been around since 1996. I mean, he's been injured here and there. He's been off TV largely for the past 3 or 4 years. But he's been with the company for the past 21 years. I got the chance to meet Mark Henry a few years back, and Ron Simmons too. Actually, in the same calendar year. I think I met them both last year, which is pretty cool. But yeah, they celebrated 21 years in the he celebrated 21 years in the WWE this year, which is pretty incredible. And then a bit newsworthy here. I think this was filmed over WrestleMania weekend, but he does say that he plans on becoming more of an employee behind the scenes and taking time off from the ring and kind of phasing down his in-ring career and making that transition in the coming months, which would probably be right around right now. Because he said this around WrestleMania weekend. I think he did wrestle in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania. I'm pretty sure anyway. And I know he wrestled the match against like Braun Strowman on Raw around that time. But beyond that, I don't think he's been on Raw since. So he probably is, has officially made that transition from the ring to behind the scenes. And he clarifies he's not leaving the WWE. He will forever be a part of the WWE for as long as they have him, just behind the scenes, which is the best thing for him considering that he's really done it all for the most part. There's not many people left to feud with. It's not like Mark Henry. People are clamoring for more Mark Henry on Raw, so it's probably the best role for him right now in WWE. Godfather talks about having another kid when he left the WWE back in 2003 after missing everything with his other kids when he first broke into the business way back when, and missing the birthdays and the graduations and this and then this and then that's and all that other kind of stuff. So he talks about having another kid, which is pretty cool. So at this point in the episode, whether this is staged or not, I'm not really sure, but it was pretty cool. They get gifts from The Rock, from Dwayne Johnson. It says DJ on the card. They all get cards with separate gifts. And Mark Henry and the Godfather get watches. And what I didn't understand, what I didn't get until they showed the replay, was that this was a reference to an Attitude Era skit with the Nation of Domination, when right around the time they were teasing tension between The Rock and Ron Simmons, Farouk, whatever. And Ron Simmons got a picture of The Rock here, which was pretty funny, whereas Mark Henry and The Godfather got like nice watches, so it was pretty cool, a nice reference to a skit I completely forgot about, so that was pretty funny. And they kind of laugh it off and all this other kind of shit. And anyway, so they talk about Mark Henry. He thanks Ron Simmons for being an influence to him throughout their time in the Nation of Domination. Ron Simmons talks about forming the Nation of Domination to begin with. And someone to the Godfather, someone had told him that don't mock the Nation of Islam or whatever when they were doing the Nation of Domination thing. Because obviously back then in the 90s, people were taking it a lot more seriously than they would. I don't know if they would take it more seriously than they would today, because today's society is a lot more sensitive than it was obviously 20 years ago, especially in WWE. But people really took that shit seriously. Like they were mocking certain nations and they were representing certain nations and stuff like that. And they're like, no. They're just characters, don't take it too seriously. We're just doing it for heel heat, that kind of thing. But even Ron Simmons, he shares a story about fans thinking that he was Farouk and not Ron Simmons, and not like a real person. He's like, that's just a character. At a hotel room or something like that, he had said at a hotel he was at, they thought he was Farouk. He's like, no, that's just a character I play. Don't think I'm actually him. And it's funny. I mean, Jericho's talked about it before. Other people have talked about it before, that you don't go up to an actor thinking that they're the character they played in the movie. You know that it's just fucking Tom Hanks. Or it's Tom Cruise. I'm on the Tom thing right now, but I'm just thinking of actors. You don't think it's Johnny Depp. I don't go up to Johnny Depp and think, oh my God, it's Jack Sparrow. I mean, I think it's cool that I got to meet the character, that I got to meet the guy who played the character of Jack Sparrow, not Jack Sparrow himself. He's not real. You know what I mean? Which is why I've always thought it was weird that people think that when you're meeting a certain wrestler, I mean, you are meeting that wrestler, so to speak, but you're more meeting the guy or the woman who plays the character, who plays the wrestler. It's just an on-air persona, not really that person, the sadistic Randy Orton who would kick people in the head a couple of years ago. So never really understood that. But even Mark Henry, he got threatened during their time in the Nation of Domination. All of them got threatened during their time in the group. And Mark Henry said The Rock had so much heat that when they would leave arenas and stuff, that fans would beat up on their rental cars. Either before they got there or as they were driving out of the arena, their cars would be trashed. And they would bring them back to the rental car place and they'd be like, what the fuck happened? It's like, we're heels. That's what happens. I mean, it's hard to explain, obviously, to a non-wrestling fan. But that's insane, And imagine if they did that today. I mean, again, I think people understand. Back then, there were still those that didn't see wrestling as being not fake, but scripted or whatever. They thought it was real. And today, obviously, the curtain's been pulled back quite a bit, and people know it's not real. But people wouldn't go after that group for thinking it's real or for thinking they're actually racist and all this other kind of stuff. They would just go after them because it would be offensive. You know what I mean? So it's definitely a different time today than it was 20 years ago, but it has different standards. Different things would happen in different time periods. But yeah, that was crazy to hear them talk about that, how they got so much heat that fans would beat up on their rental cars. I mean, you would hear stories like that from back in like the 70s and 80s. Now people, the heels were so real in how they would be assholes and shit in their matches and whatever, that fans would take it seriously, try to stab people and try to hurt the wrestlers as they were walking to the back or leaving the arena. And that was still prevalent even in the 90s, which blew my mind. So again, Mark Henry talks about joining the Nation of Domination. They talk quite a bit about D-Generation X spoof of them, which was downright hilarious. Now, you guys know I'm not the biggest Attitude Era fan, but I think the first time I saw that was when John, who was on Wrestle Rant Radio and hashtag AskGSM last week, so check it out when you can, he had showed me his Best of Raw DVD, or the, I think, Best of Raw 15 Years DVD, or whatever it was, that came out around 2007. And this was on there, the DX spoof of Nation of Domination. I thought it was just fucking hilarious. The one they did of the McMahons, too, of Shane and Vince, about a decade later, was also really good. But I thought this one was especially funny. But yeah, they talk about their ties with race and stuff like that. Mark Henry shares a D'Lo Brown story. Would have been cool to get him on here. D'Lo Brown has not been involved with the WWE in many, many years. I know he left TNA a few years ago. But it would be cool to see him back, maybe not as a wrestler, but it would be cool to see him back as, an agent or something like that, which I know he was working as in TNA for a while. So it would be cool to see him as a producer or whatnot in WWE at some point. But anyway, Mark Henry praises Ron Simmons as the leader of the group, again, showing, being a massive influence on them, showing leadership and all that other kind of stuff. And even Mark Henry says the Nation of Domination was a launching pad for several stars. I mean, it was in the Nation of Domination that the Godfather adopted the Godfather gimmick, and Charles Wright adopted the Godfather gimmick and became who he was for many years after that point. Mark Henry, I said it earlier, was in the business and still has been in the business for 21 years. And even Farouk, I mean, he wouldn't win a world championship in WWE as he did in WCW, but he did go on to become a tag team champion, become this great tag team competitor with The Rock, or not with The Rock, that was Nation, with JBL as part of the APA. So all of them had really nice careers. Even D'Lo Brown was a former European champion, Intercontinental champion during his time in WWE, post-Nation of Domination. So the Nation of Domination, regardless of what you think of the group itself, really was, as Mark Henry put it, a launching pad for everyone involved from that point forward and giving them all success in some form or fashion. Mark Henry praises The Rock, his ability to play the role as the leader of the group after Ron Simmons. And to close out the episode, Ron Simmons asks the Godfather to trade their gifts from the picture to the watch. And Ron Simmons says, or Godfather denies, and Ron Simmons really wants that watch, just kind of joking around. And then Ron Simmons closes out the episode by saying, "This is for life. The Nation of Domination is for life." Not NWO, like for life, but, just saying that bond that they shared in that group, despite the fact that Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, and D'Lo Brown were not there. But, they still share that bond from the Nation of Domination for life, which is pretty cool. So, overall, a good episode, not all that newsworthy, not the best Table for 3 I've ever seen, but it was still pretty good. Again, check it out, Nation Reunion on the WWE Network, Table for 3, featuring The Godfather, Ron Simmons, and Mark Henry. Good stuff. So next week, I think tonight is a new episode of Table for 3, so next week I will talk about that right here on the show on WWE Network and Chill. But in the meantime, and in between time, guys, have an awesome rest of your week. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. I thoroughly appreciate it. And again, we'll be back next Monday with another all-new episode of WWE Network and Chill. Until then, guys, I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.